Welcome everybody. I'm Deborah Westbrook and it is 2/21/25 and the name of this channel is to be brilliant. Why? Because I truly believe that I believe in people and I believe scientifically they're light, spiritually they're light, and physically they're light. And I believe that you are asked to flow in your divinity within your humanity in such a time as this. Now, I've titled this video, I Am My Story. We're going to go into a little bit of depth about several intuitive thoughts that I got and continue to get from reading Greg Braden's book, Pure Human. These intuitive insights, as I read the book, cause me to stop in the book, and they're stirring within me, a passion to know my I am for such a time as this. So the foundational restoration of my life, it's like as I'm reading the book, I'm seeing that the foundation that in all of us that needed healing, that maybe was fragmented, the foundation is being restored. Not in what I do, in who I am. To know that I'm called for such a time as this, to shine the light of my brilliance in who I am. And as we come together as a collective consciousness, that light shines even brighter. So my story, to create my story, I'm going to give you some incredible insights that I got from the book, as well as then go into how this applies to my life. Because unless, I'm not just going to teach it, unless I know how it applies to my life to encourage you. And I'm going to show you how creating our story is physical, emotional, and spiritual. So let's get started. Welcome to this channel. If you like, leave a comment. I'm anxious to hear what you say. Subscribe, share it, whatever. So I'm going to look at my notes because I have notes. So in this book, Pure Human, Greg Braden talks about the God code that is within each of us. And this God code is written and stored in our DNA. Without going into all the details, the scientific details of how he arrived at this, it's fascinating. If you want to read the book, it'll tell you exactly how chromosome number 2 was shifted 200,000 years ago to display our beautiful biological humanity within our divinity. So he calls it the God code. Let me give you a little background before we go into talking about the story. 200,000 years ago, the first of our kind emerged in this world. Our genome, which is our complete set of DNA in an organism, was modified to store information about us that influences who we are, that would one day reveal the secret of our heritage, our hidden potential, and our divinity, and our destiny. So, did a tech advanced species intervene in our evolution and place us on the fast track to becoming the humans that we are today? Did they leave a signature inside of us? Well, he believes yes. You can believe anything you want, but that doesn't negate the existence of a creator, of source, of God. But it's evident that we didn't evolve from the Neanderthals or whatever, that something happened 200,000 years ago that greatly influenced a chromosome number 2. And again, read the book. It was a mutation that does not happen in nature. In fact, the odds of it happen randomly is almost non-existent. So the biology that gives us life is made up of a combination of genetic codes that can be translated into meaningful words. And this is done through the ancient alphabets of Sanskrit, Arabic, and Hebrew. And so if this astounds you, great. If you're questioning it, that's okay too. I personally believe it. I believe that within me, that this code has converted the elements of my DNA into familiar letters that gives me the I am essence of identity. What does this code say? Well, it says God eternal within the body. God eternal within the body. The signature within each of us is simply telling us that the architect, the creator, God, Source, created each of us with authenticity, sovereignty, and creativity to navigate time here and now. Your humanity is not flawed, and technology is not better than your humanity. We have untapped abilities in us, untapped energies in us that will flow in our divinity, that will provide a sense of awe and wonder despite what's going on in the world today, the evil, the fear, the death, the constant wars. You can move in a narrative that is contrary to that while going through it. So let me give you a pure human truth in the book. Human cells within us may be thought of from an information tech perspective. How? Each cell is a library, the chromosomes being books, and the shorter strands of genes being chapters, paragraphs, sentences, and words. Let me repeat that. Human cells may be thought of from an information tech perspective, with each cell being a library, the chromosomes being books, and the shorter strands of genes being chapters, paragraphs, sentences, and words. I am my story. You are your story. Created uniquely, authentically, and we're going to look at this. When I read this, what did it do to me? Well, coming from a background of feeling insignificant, I realized, I keep saying this over the past 2 years, I'm in time for such a time as this. That is not to be negated. You're not here to get out of time. You're not here to, I personally believe, I'm not coming back into this time. This time is orchestrated divinely to move within the beauty of my humanity. That's why on the planet today, there is so much distracting us, so much trying to control us. This was in past videos, that right now, so many people are so distracted, looking here, there, and everywhere, believing everything while believing nothing, that they don't believe in themselves. I do. It's been a journey, but I do. And this book was divinely placed in my hands to stir a passion and to stir future messages within me. So let's talk about I am my story. What is the I am? It is not quite able to be defined. The I am essence is a lot as consciousness. It's creative. It's the potential of you connecting outside of yourself in time through intuition, through connecting with the field, to know the very essence of your being. And it's different for all of us, while collectively we come together and in a heightened awareness of consciousness, we change things in light. So my story, your story, is authentically written within you, physically through the chromosomes and the genes that actually tell a story of God eternal within the body, spiritually and emotionally as it is expressed and manifested. Consciousness is creative. If you're just letting others tell you who your life is, if you're letting others define your life, then you don't really know yourself, and you're not on a journey to know yourself. You're on a journey to discover whatever one else thinks about you. You're maybe suffering with insignificance or insecurity or fear. Get healed, get over it, stand up tall, and no matter how you present yourself, remember, it's a journey. So physically, I express my divinity in my humanity within gender, race, color, tribe, all being as one. Why do you think that there is such a global effort to sanction people off into certain tribes that come against certain tribes? God did not create humanity that way. He created each of us according to gender, color, race, national, cultural tribe, to contribute to the collective consciousness. Yet right now we're being pitted against one another. I detest that. I detest that. When I meet a person, I try my best to look past what the narrative is being played out, to look past what is being said about things now, and I try to look directly into their heart. I am manifested in time, no better, no worse than anybody, within my gender, race, color, tribe, all being as one. Now, emotionally, I create my story by navigating life according to culture. I do not think America is the empire to be taking over the world, but I do believe that there is an energy over many different nations that, when looked at in unity in the collective consciousness, brings us up to a higher perspective, to where we all work together in unity. I've traveled all over the world, and I've never pushed my background in any place. I tried to look at what was being displayed there and how I could add to it. Personally, I think this nation, it is creative and innovative. It has been destroyed in so many ways, but that's the essence. Why? Because your story is not subtracted from where you live on the planet, culturally, emotionally. If it's being destroyed, if it's being controlled, then yes, that's wrong. But culturally, I'm not raised anywhere else. So where we are is the energy of how we project itself in unity in the collective consciousness. I do believe we're all one, but I do believe we're all different expressions. And I'll give examples of how I had to learn that through my travels and living in a lot of different places. Now, that's physically we write our story. Emotionally, we write our story. Culture does play a difference. We're different from Japan. We're different from Kenya. We're different from Finland. That does not mean we're better. Does not mean we're worse. It just means we're part of a planetary flow forward in the beauty of our creativity. But what also plays a part in our stories, in my story, is spirituality. But not having been a science math major as well as a minister for many years, both didn't serve a purpose in advancing my awareness and rising in consciousness. It was when I started integrating and I left the Newtonian view of everything is matter, and I started looking at quantum. When I left religion that says there's one way, and I integrated the beauty of both parts, then I moved in the oneness, first inside, and then in my perception. There is not one way, one religion, or one belief system. And so we create our story in a higher realm of consciousness of spirituality, knowing that in the field there is potential. We access it by our intuition, by our synchronicities that we come into contact with, the meditation, breath work, so many different ways. But spiritually, this nation has locked itself down into a very narrow path. You don't see that in a lot of nations of the world unless evangelists have had the field day in perpetrating the religious lie that there's only duality of heaven and hell. And we'll talk about that at some point. Therefore, knowing I physically, emotionally, and spiritually create my story, all is being narrated now to control the script. The script is how you manifest your life. And yours is not a scripted life by anyone else. You're the author. You're the creator. And when you totally move from your heart, you find the resonance of unity with other people. When you know who you are, you're not going to compete. You're not going to judge in any way. So all is being narrated right now to push us into a script. And the one thing I learned from this book, which I knew to some extent, is that technology is trying to present the fact that we are living in a flawed humanity. Our humanity is not flawed. If you look closely at some of the things he says in this book, we have a soft technology within us that is brilliant in our DNA. in our cellular structure, in our ability to emit light, in our biofield of energy. This is so diverse, wide, and expansive that you can see that the narrative right now is trying to tell you to walk this way. This is the script. And it's always looking outside of yourself for a savior. I say that all the time. Why? Because after having lived in so many places in the world, I realize how this nation is so decimated into a savior complex that we look for anybody outside of ourselves to save us rather than realizing the beauty of our divinity within. So let's look at one aspect of creating our story, and that is the physical realm through our biology. And I'm going to give you different viewpoints. The teaching of Buddha says this: the secret of health for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, nor to worry about the future, but to live the present moment wisely and earnestly. Well, that's not happening right now. The distractions on the planet are shifting our physical gaze, our internal gaze, in so many different directions that we can't find the foundational reason for anything that's happening. So they create a narrative that forces us to go that way rather than living in the mindfulness of the now. But also Proverbs, because I do believe the Bible as a spiritual book, not as the only book, has beautiful revelation in it, insights. It says a joyful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. Now we're talking about physicality. Do you believe your biology? Do you believe that you do not have to accept every diagnosis? That yes, there's a purpose for doctors, but there's also a purpose for holistic healers. There's also a purpose knowing that when your heart is at peace and when your heart is grateful, it's going to affect physically your whole body. So a joyful heart, that's not happiness. That's an innate sense of essence, of satisfaction that you're in time for such a time as this. You don't put yourself down. You explore the internal reality of God within. So also, 1 Corinthians 6:19 says your body is the temple of the Spirit. Now, this has been denigrated into the Trinity. I don't believe that anymore, folks. But the Spirit could be consciousness. It could be essence. We are the temple of God, God eternal within the body. So why do you think they try to engineer the weather, which I believe is true? Why do you think they're pushing every medical tablet or injection? Why? Because it's a greed operating mechanism. It makes them money. It doesn't care about your health. You have to be the first one that cares about your health through knowing that you're the temple of God, knowing that what you put in affects your being. So also Swami Vivekananda says this: build up your health. Do not dwell in silence upon your sorrows. I took Christianity, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Consciously or unconsciously, the Swami says, health can be transmitted. Listen carefully. A very strong man or woman living with a weak man or woman will make him a little stronger, whether he knows it or not. Why? Energy, resonance, and transference. What am I trying to say? I'm walking this out right now. As I get older, the narrative out there is not always positive to someone that's getting older. I refuse to believe it. The first place I look at is within. Change your eating, change your motivation in life. Everything that this nation, as far as its processed food, as far as its influence through every commercial telling you to take a different pill, I don't buy into any of it. I listen to my intuition. I have incredible doctors when I go to see them. Not often. I choose my doctors based upon empathy and listening. And I believe there's many out there. So you are God eternal within the body. You create your story in a physical realm, in a physical location based upon how you look. I'm a white woman. Do I want to be a black woman? An Asian? I'm not. I was born this way. And if my view of life is that all are one, then I relish the fact that there are differences of physical appearances all around me. I do not like to live. I was a pastor of a church a long time ago with the Assemblies of God that it was 70% Black, African American, however you want to call it. And I learned so much. Let me tell you something. I sat at that time, that was years ago, I sat with an older Black woman. Am I being politically correct? I don't care. When I sat with this older Black woman, she told me what her life was like growing up. She told me what she faced. And I had empathy and compassion. I did not place myself better or less than, and neither should you. To establish the unity of a Christ consciousness, we had to look at who we are, not deny the physical applications of who we are, but then look in the heart. So emotionally, you also create your story. Physically, I'm not going to change myself. I am who I am. Well, emotionally, I am who I am in healing. So emotionally, we realize that perfect love casts out fear. And perfect love is a powerful connection with our heart in heart-brain coherence with the field. So science suggests a link, and we know this, among stress, depression, and heart disease. Several studies strongly suggest that certain psychosocial factors, such as grief, depression, job loss, everything they're creating today to denigrate people and showing them they're flawed, is creating stress emotionally, trauma that can contribute to heart attack and cardiac arrest. So stress may affect risk factors for the heart disease in so many ways. So why are we learning now about heart-brain coherence? Because emotionally, where our direction comes from, where the I am essence comes from, is not solely in the brain. It is in brain and heart coherence to connect with the field in the heart, in gratitude. And that's why perfect love casts out fear. Love is not woo-woo. Love is this powerful energy in the field that is consciousness of the cosmos. I don't believe it's able to be defined, because usually how we define it is in terms of actions. I believe love is essence. I believe it affects your physicality and how you view things. I believe it affects your emotions, your belief systems. And so it also affects your heart. So there's fear. I see fear in so many people. So many people. Well, perfect love, the energy of perfect love, which means that you have the autonomy to create to create an authentic life. And we talked about last time that perfect love casts out fear. The last enemy to be conquered is death. When you release your fear of death, many of you may have had near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, where you confronted things that are more in prime reality. You have no fear of death. So when you have no fear of death, you truly live. You live here and you live now, and you realize that your journey in this time is a starting point and an ending point, and you make the beautiful authenticity of freedom and creativity while you're in time. So thoughts and emotions affect each other, and they control through altering our external situation, shifting our attention. So that's why there's a controlled perception, which I talked about. If they can control your perception by believing so many ways that a savior's outside of yourself, that you're flawed, you need help, you're going to lose everything, only evil is on this planet. If you have to see it and then rise above it. and you use these to fight the narrative, you change your thoughts, change your beliefs. Let me tell you something. Also, culture. Again, I want to get back to the fact that I've lived in a lot of different places, but I was born in this nation. Does that have significance? Yes. Unfortunately, now we think we're the empire of the empires, which is complete bullshit. The lies that this nation, as well as other governments across the planet, perpetrate are not the lies of we the people. It is we the people that will change the planet. So let me tell you some of the things I've experienced. Basically, being born in Chicago, raised Midwest common sense, then moving to California in 1980. Thank God for my Midwest common sense, because there doesn't appear to be a lot of common sense out here. Culturally, I'm innovative, I'm creative, I'm quirky, I'm very intuitive. So when you're in different nations, a lot of times we Americans, we truly are innovative. It's been castrated somewhat, but we're an innovative nation that we've kind of lost that, and other nations have picked it up. But when I'm in another nation, I don't profess to be who they are or who I am. I try to blend. Let me tell you something. I like to talk to people. I like to engage in conversation. I'm frequently, in creating my story, I'm intuitively moving in time. And if I feel something for someone, I look at the person very closely and I say, how can I share them this message? And I don't try to define myself as an intuitive. I just kind of say, hi, hey, how are you? You from this area? Well, when I was in Finland, that's who I am. But sometimes I couldn't be everything who I am in certain places in the globe. For instance, living in Abu Dhabi, I wasn't allowed to get a driver's license unless my husband at the time spoke for me because of the Islamic belief, etc., etc. And so when I was in Finland, I was at a coffee shop, and I was learning a lot about Finns. They're incredible people. They're not like people in the United States. And what really bugs the crap out of me is when Americans travel and that arrogance, when they go into other nations and they try to project their way as the only way by being demanding or whatever. I was not like that, but neither was I not myself. So sitting in this coffee shop, I had something happen that blew me away, and it was quite simple. A woman sat across from me. It's like, when we go into Starbucks or coffee shops, if you sit down at a table, more than likely, no, you own the the atmosphere around that table. People may ask you to sit down, but they will ask you. But this woman, it makes me laugh. This woman sat across from me, and I kept looking at her. Is she going to say something? Is she going to talk to me? And she never did. She took out her paperwork. She proceeded to write, and she totally ignored who I was. Why? Because that's how Finnish people are, I came to know. This is not a negative thing. They don't feel the need to talk all the time. They don't feel the need to talk to strangers. They're very, and please know that I had a wonderful experience in Finland, but this blew me away and it taught me a lesson. Do not assume that my way is the only way. So I eventually ended up saying hello to her, telling her I was an American, and she started talking to me, which was not how I would have done it here. I would have engaged a conversation. And then also, here's another thing I learned. And this is emotionally how I write my story, by knowing that when I travel out, that I am creating a story that is in conjunction with many different people. When I'm here, I'm creating a story that's in conjunction with many different people, and I'm doing it emotionally, not assuming I'm always having the right to be beyond myself, but adapting myself to every situation to be the best version of myself. Here's what happened in Kenya. I was in and out of Kenya for 8 years. Harun, on the way to meet me at the hotel, he was my translator. I was always amazed that I tend to be on time. So when they said they're going to be there 11, they were never. Rarely were they there at 11. Well, why is that? Is it because that they were inconsiderate, or that? No, not at all. Arun used to meet different people along the way, and he would stop and talk to them and engage with them. And by the time he got to me, he had maybe 2 people with him, and he had a story to tell. So what am I trying to say? Emotionally, we create our story in humility and grace. We have got to learn in this nation, as well as other nations, that there is a collective consciousness of expression, and it comes from the heart. So when I know in my heart who I am emotionally, what I believe, I do not try to push it on other people. I navigate in this realm, and if something is diametrically coming opposed to me, I don't push back anymore. I don't try to argue with people anymore that know they're not listening or they're not seeing. I try to navigate in my realm, being in humility and grace wherever I am. And I'm going to speak over my life that I believe that I will once again go into several nations. So I adapt myself to the energy of the nation, because why else am I there? I'm not there to try to change them. That's why all this BS about taking this place in the Middle East and building up a hotel. Effing BS, folks. No one has the right to do that. So emotionally, I am walking in humility, grace, power, strength, and I have to reevaluate myself and create the story along the way. So physically, we create our story. Emotionally, we create our story. And spiritually, we create our story. But spirituality is not locked down into one belief system. God is eternal. God, source, divine mind, the all, however you call God, the title is irrelevant. Acknowledgement is simple. There is a divine mind, I personally believe, that created this universe, that stands within us in place in this moment of time to create the essence of who we are. So we're in time for such a time as this. We have to realize that. Otherwise, we're captured by narratives that are flowing in time to lock us down in time and to not expand us into an increasing awareness. Time is manifesting in and through and as our lives, not to control in a forward progression, but in an internal expanding reality. It's called the now. Each of us discovers a universal truth. Here's what I'm thinking a lot about. This is the way, walk ye in it. It's not this person's way. It's not that person's way. What is your way? It is a creative way that takes it one step at a time as you discover yourself. It's our curtain call, folks. Living an unscripted life where we are the authors, co-creating each chapter in God, in source, through connecting with our divinity, not just our humanity. So it's time to wake up. Our consciousness originates from beyond our body, and the need for biological antenna within us creates a resonance between our heart, our physical body, our emotions, and as we connect with the field, we connect with our essence. So the question today is, what's your story? Are you discovering the walking out of your story? This book is creating my story, which is unique to me. I want to take science and spirituality, but I don't want to teach science. I want to read all this stuff and encourage you to be brilliant. So let me end with 3 quotes. All the powers of the universe are already ours. It is we who have put our hands before our eyes and cry that it is dark. This is some Swami Vivekananda, and that's true. Everything is already within us. We're a fractal of God. Houston Smith says we are a blend of dust and divinity. This is where you realize that you're human. You do not deny, nor do you try to get out of here, nor I'm not going to try to get back in here. But I'm going to navigate life in the beauty of time, knowing that I am dust, but that dust is empowered by divinity. It is the sparking of the electromagnetic field. It is the sparking of light within me to expand in my biofield in energy. And last but not least, Jesus said this: I'm the world's light. No one who follows me stumbles around in the darkness. I provide plenty of light to live in. He was not saying that he was the only way. He was trying to teach us to take those words and to make them personal. I'm the world's light. No one who follows me stumbles around in the darkness because I provide plenty of light to live in. And that is why the title of this channel is to be brilliant. It's not a woo-woo statement. It's not a nebulous statement. It's that deep within your essence, you are God eternal within the body, and that correlates with light. So I hope that you'll go back and listen to the light videos from Gloria Prema's book, It's All Light, as well as at the end of this, you'll see that there's other videos you can watch. So I hope you have a great day. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. And I love teaching this, and let's keep going on this journey. And I'm going to expand. I'm going to do about 2 a week. So you are your story. I am my story. And from my I am essence is the manifestation of my authenticity and my creativity. It really is as simple as that. Y'all have a good day.